Hey. My name is Langrisser, and this is their Langrisser. A very cool turn-based strategy game that is JRPG is anime to the bone. And the game is probably the most easy of its kind. The reason I know of this is because back in the day I stumbled upon a mostly translated version on an emulator, because the original game was never released outside of Japan. So the story follows two characters. You have the protagonist, Alvin, with his red hair and his fancy pansy friend Hein, a wizard, who, so no matter what path you take, will always follow you. As the characters level up, they get access to more units, and they have branching paths. This is a turn-based strategy to the bone and RPG to the bone, which means that the characters level up and they have stats, and the higher stats is better stats. But there is a upper limit to how much stat a character can have. And it's fully voice acted, unlike original. All the artwork has been remade. But the thing really makes this story about wandering prince and the wandering warrior of light fighting the evil emperor, and fighting about the legendary sword. But the thing is, throughout the story, it is possible to branch out the progress, which means that from a story perspective, there's a lot of twists and turns, because main character can essentially side with any faction. And when I say any faction, I mean any faction. Be it Empire, be it the vicious demons. Or just getting rid of them all, because, you know. It's not really nice. You can't have a goddess and some racist demons, you know, rule the world. Combat itself is simple, as you can see. Character A moves to slot B, and then you attack. naturally, there are some fancy-pansy animation, but for the sake of sanity, they have been temporarily disabled. I do believe the original game was called Warsong and released on the Sega system, and then the rest of the games were ignored. Until recently, when they decided to publish this game on Steam, and they made a mobile game as well. The other thing here is that they take the two first games and basically remaster them and put them onto Steam, like I said. So, which means we fixed a couple of minor bugs and all, but and of course the decent yet generic Japanese voice acting. Even have some simple talking animations. However, unlike the original graphics, the characters have been animated in that horrible, horrible Flash style of animation where you just well, you see the character from the side and just sort of twist and bend them a little bit and pretend it's an animation. It just doesn't look as good as the original the sprite work. However, it's dirt cheap to animate it that way. The remastered music isn't too bad either. And yes, as for combat, right, it's turn-based. So first, my team of heroes do their thing. Which earns them money, and which earns them money can be used to buy items and getting upgrade. The unit balance itself, it is a rock, paper, scissors sort of style. It means that in the basically sword beats spear for some reason, and spear beats horse. It makes sense in game, but from a battle perspective, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because spear beats sword, and sword is backup. Oh well. So, the idea is simple, really. Each commander has an amount of units. And if they're mage, they have skills. Like magic. It works marvelous. And from the weight symbol, you can see that there's a Arvidone, so that means the spear is weak against this. I should not use this phalanx against this Imperial officer. However, the Griffin is balanced. However, it has more health, so it has enough strength to crush it. And should the officer die, all his units fall along with the officer. So, essentially, each unit is a extension of the officer's manfield. and each commander has like a color field around himself, where all his units gain a buff based on a lot of factors. If you put them outside that zone, if you just make them step outside that zone, they have no buffs at all. But you can totally send a unit from the top of the map to the bottom of the map. Oh, and since this is a game of the nature it is, you have to watch AI do a lot of nothing, just giving orders to all its units, even if doing nothing. So this camera can be a bit tiresome after a while. It's like a very dramatic chessboard. But there is nothing a little blizzard can't fix. So the thing, you can attack and move at the same turn, right? However, you cannot use a spell at the same turn you have made a move. And also, unless the character in question has a ranged attack, they are incapable of essentially attacking in more than 4 different directions. Naturally, you have also a very useful healer. Who is also slightly more deadly than original. Which, and the magic, well, is generic fantasy magic. You have fireballs, healing, meteorites, teleportation. And apparently moving horses, using horses against, using hippogriffs, griffins against trooper is not a very good move. And every now and then you are also can unlock summons. It should be mentioned that the easiest character of all to level up is a mage, because they get experience point regardless of what you do. And this shiny little star here under these people are hidden items, which can only be picked up by moving a hero onto that square and watching some dialogue occur, and you see what they pick up. The thing though is that a couple of places in this game there are hidden levels as well. And there are certain items you can use to reset your characters to the previous level up, while keeping the stats. So the basic idea is that every 10th level your character can choose a different class and get different mercenaries. As you probably noticed, the AI is not the brightest bag of bunch. which means it will gladly keep charging these spearmen with horses, which happens to be the big weakness of having of spears. Yes. Who would have thought? Naturally, it's the story itself starts out very generic. The hero comes across a village that is being attacked by some unscrupulous man from the evil, power-hungry empire. And after that you join the good guy kingdom, who is decided to band up and fight the evil, power-hungry empire. And as the story progresses, the more characters join and the plot thickens a little bit. So, like I said before, you can join different factions by doing choices, which the game is conveniently keeping a good list of. The first game technically has that as well, but that is just some minor plot lines that changes. So it's nothing too exciting to write home about. The thing that also stands out is that every hero in your party has a written epilogue about what happened to them after the story concluded. Naturally, I will not be spoiling any of that, because that would spoil the fun on the game. And if I were to spoil the game, then this wouldn't be much of a review, now would it? So technically, Ballista is strong versus many things because they have long range. However, they are not the most useful unit in the game. There's like this no-face Imperial Officer, which isn't very useful at all in that regard. So yes, the different branching path is what really sold me on this, because once you get to make the choice, everything comes out of left field. Another aspect to note is that the game itself has a new game plus-ish. As in, you start a new game, and it's slightly harder than the previous game, than the previous run. Of course, it is also possible to move back and forth between the levels, and whenever a character rejoins the story, they will regain their levels. So it's never truly a waste. However, it's still a very, very, very simple, easy game with good music and decent graphics. No, the most damning thing about this would probably be the difficulty. Like I said, it's not a hard game at all. but you can quick save whenever you feel like. Also, there's a couple of choices like graphic settings, kind of a bit lackluster really. And there's keyboard settings. There isn't many keys to be concerned about, because you can set the background music. And such. Oh yeah. Oh, listen to that compressed MIDI. Oh yeah. Ooh, and a thing of note I nearly forgot. Units have a... the commander can be set to different orders in the way it wants, which affects the way you want a unit to behave, adding a little bit of strategy to this whole experience. So, for example, if you have a defense, they will just protect the commander. If you have an attack, they will deliberately go out of the way to attack automatically whatever they can reach when there's end of the turn. Or idle, where they will do nothing unless ordered to. Other than that, well... the combat can look quite fancy and a little bit silly. I mean, in what other type of game can you have the glory of watching a team of mages getting murdered by griffins or molested by fairies? Oh, it's anime to the bone. And with that, sayonara for now.